Welcome back to Brian's Run Pod. I hope you are having a great week. Well, this week I'm interviewing Tamsin, who is currently coached by Andrew Wren. Now, you may remember I interviewed him some time ago. If you haven't come across the podcast of Andrew, then please do go and have a listen. Anyway, I've split our interview with Tamsin into two parts. The first, she talks about how she got into running and her running achievements, plus some of the other coaches she has used. In the second part, I asked her about how she discovered Andrew and some of the training she is currently doing. I really do hope you enjoy our chat. So you're thinking about running, but not sure how to take the first step. My name is Brian Patterson, and I'm here to help. Welcome to Brian's Run Pod. Welcome back to Brian's Run Pod. And today we have another guest with us today. Now, you may remember that I did have an interview with a local running coach called Andrew Wren. And I was very keen on someone who has or is being coached by him. Today, I'm very lucky to have Tamsin Burland, who has agreed to be on Brian's Run Pod. Thank you very much for coming. And she said her first experience of running happened in her first year of secondary school when she entered a 1,500-meter race on sports day. And she says, and I quote, "I had no running experience, no inherent fitness, and I came last by a long way. But everyone was lovely, and it was because on each lap I was waving and smiling at spectators." And that so reminds me of many intra-school races that I had that I entered into. Anyway, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Tamsin, for coming to the podcast.
You're welcome. I'm happy to be here. I should just say that I entered because nobody else in my class would step up. Everybody was looking at the wall or the ceiling, and I was the only one who said, "Oh, okay, I'll do it."
Oh, okay. Okay, that was your first experience. But had you been quite active at school after that?
No, I was a typical adolescent girl who really didn't want to do sport because it was too embarrassing, really. I think so. By the time I was 17, 18, I must have been so unfit. I did nothing, to be honest.
Okay. So what was that sort of that pivotal moment where you thought, maybe I'll give fitness a try?
Yeah, I think I did. I had two elder brothers who were really sporty. So sport was very much a part of my life, but mainly just watching other people do it.
Oh, right. Okay.
So I think really I was much older, probably in my mid to late 20s. I found myself very drawn to running. I used to always watch the London Marathon.
Right.
I used to for some reason, I just found it compelling.
Yeah.
People could do that.
Yeah.
It never even occurred to me that I would ever run one marathon, let alone 5.
You've done 5?
I've done 5 marathons.
My gosh.
Just gradually, I was drawn to it. And in my early 30s, I did just start trying it out on the treadmill. I didn't want anybody to see me do it.
Okay.
I'd go out late at night and run up and down the road when nobody was looking.
Oh, I see.
And then I had my son. And I was quite ill after having my son. But after about a year, it was just a friend of mine who also wanted to get fit after having a baby. We just started running, going out together. We were both really unfit and really excited that we could run a mile.
Yes, yeah.
And it really snowballed from there.
Did you find that sort of the benefit escalated quite quickly in terms of, let's say, you were running to the end of the road and then the next time you ran, it was, I don't know, 2 streets ahead or something like that?
Absolutely. I think that early, when you're either starting running or coming back from injury and haven't run for a while, those first few months where you can see some really tangible improvements, that is very highly motivating. And it's actually quite hard when that starts plateauing, I think.
Oh, yeah. And because I noticed my daughter, who's at university at the moment, she started running, but it was like totally unheard of that she'd ever think of taking it up. But she found, say, running to the bus was really, beneficial. Absolutely. I think, so that kind of general all-round fitness.
Yes, absolutely, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But when was the point when you really thought, oh, I'm going to start taking this a little bit more seriously?
I think we did a race for life. That seems to be the sort of required entry into running.
Yeah.
And then went up to a 10K, and I just started. It was just becoming more and more of my life, and I started training regularly. And I found the Runner's World Smart Coach, which I think has been discontinued now, but that's a training plan where you can put in a recent race time, and it gives you a training plan based on that.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
And I followed that. I'm very good at following sort of orders, and I followed that absolutely to the letter for a 10K, and got a really good result that I was really happy with. And I did it the same with my first half marathon. And actually, the times that I got on those two, so this is late 2000s, the times I got for those two still remain my PBs. I've never got back to those times again, ever. So by that point, I was hooked.
Okay.
And after the 10K, I did a local 10K run by a local running club.
Yeah.
And after that, they wrote to me to say, we saw you were unaffiliated. So I didn't enter the race with saying that I was a member of a club. So if you are unaffiliated, would you like to join us? And that's how I joined Ranelagh Harriers.
All right. Which Harriers?
Ranelagh Harriers. They're based in Petersham, in Richmond. Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. All right. So the website, the Runner's World website, did it say, oh, you need to be doing it 3 times a week?
Yeah, so it would have a 4-week block. And each week you would do a long run, an easy run, and a session, a sort of quality session, which would either be tempo or speed work. And then the 4th week was always an easy week, so you'd only do easy runs. I just found that structure really helpful, and it was really effective.
Was there a session that you preferred, or did you?
I quite enjoyed doing the quality sessions, being able to do a tempo run. It's usually a 3 mile at a reasonably challenging pace. That would be, you'd come back from that thinking you'd really done something, sort of done some work.
Yeah. Because I usually found that sometimes, even though they're shorter, if you're doing like a speed session, you feel a lot more, it's harder, and you feel a lot more invigorated. Whereas doing a long run, you kind of, it's a bit of willpower just to get.
Absolutely,
yeah. So you did that 10K and you did the half marathon using that, and so you obviously got the bug. So what made you to progress to maybe taking up using a running coach?
I think so. When did I first? I then did a marathon, and actually, to be honest, joining a club, if you go out on club sessions, you're almost using a coach to a certain extent anyway, because there's a lot of more knowledgeable people there.
Yeah.
But I think so. I did the Brighton Marathon. I followed a different training plan for that. I followed a training plan that incorporated a lot of cross training in as well, because I was concerned about getting injured by doing too many miles. It was a Furman Institute of Science and something, Furman training plan, and you can get those online as well.
Right.
And so I was doing, all my runs were quality sessions, and then what the equivalent of the easy runs was done using cross training. So I did rowing, quite a lot of rowing and swimming and cycling as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
they included that?
Yeah, they have a number of suggested cross-training plans that you can follow. Yeah. And again, that marathon is still my PB as well. I'm starting to learn. Maybe I should go back to that.
You should be getting faster and faster.
After that, I just did a lot of stuff with the club, and to be honest, I wasn't training very hard because I joined the club and I just liked running and chatting with people. So I think I'm the only person who joined a running club, and my times got worse because I just enjoyed the social aspect of it. But the first time I engaged a coach was when I decided to do the Tokyo Marathon, and I decided I wanted somebody who, first of all, it was more about core strength, so who could do me coaching in that respect, but she was a runner.
Right.
So she actually wrote me a plan for Brighton Marathon as well. So that was the first time I engaged with a coach.
Okay. So what sort of things was she giving you on the core strength side?
It was, we just did a session once a week in a park. So it was all sorts of different, sort of mainly body weight exercises. It's a long time ago now. I can't really remember what we were doing, but I'm sure it was things like squats and those sort of things. Yeah.
Yeah. So he was the overall strength, body strength type of thing.
Yeah.
What, by the way, what is your PBs for your marathon?
Oh,
10K?
Do you want to know? They're not very impressive. So my 10K is around 53.
Very good. That's about mine. That's about mine.
My half marathon is 1:58, so it's the only time I've gone under 2 hours for a half. And then my marathon is 4:21.
Okay. Okay. I'll be just quite interested in people who've done marathons, because I've never done it. I tried to enter 1,000 years ago, but what was the biggest obstacle compared to, let's say, you've done a half sort of thing? Is there that much? Is the marathon a different beast compared to doing?
I mean, you can get away with a half. I don't think a marathon will let you get away with cutting corners, to be honest.
Yeah.
So you have to be prepared to put the time in.
Yeah.
You have to be prepared to run at paces that you wouldn't necessarily want to be running at. So you have to put your ego aside, I think, and run slowly for a long time. And you just have to be, so I think it's avoiding injury. I think the biggest thing with marathon training is, because the long runs are so important, you have to do everything to avoid injury. So that means not doing silly things. Not running too fast, not jumping up your mileage too quickly. Yeah, I think they're probably the two things that I would think that's come to mind. First of all, you have to be really disciplined and just not get ahead of yourself.
But also putting in the time.
The time is really important. You've got to do the miles. Yeah. Got to do the miles.
Yeah.
But if you get injured, don't try to carry on, because you're just going to make life worse for yourself.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all right to have to take time out if you're injured. It's better to than try and move on. And it's certainly not worth trying to catch up.
Yeah.
So if you're meant to have a 25-mile week, don't try to do 50 miles the next week.
I don't know, sometimes people argue that are there any health benefits for doing a marathon? Because obviously there are health benefits in doing running, obviously, sort of aerobically, that kind of thing. But when you're doing a marathon, it has a lot of stress in your joints and that kind of thing.
I don't think there's a black and white answer to that, to be honest. A marathon for one person can be relatively straightforward, and for another it can be a massive strain on the body.
Yeah.
I really don't think I'm in a position to say yes or no. But I think you have to. I think you have to make a decision to do a marathon with a lot of thought, and don't think it's something that you can take lightly.
Obviously, go to a doctor, GP, if you have any concerns, first of all.
Yeah, although you would have to see somebody who understands, who's a runner-friendly profession. I think you could see better people than probably a GP in respect of that, possibly. It really depends. If you're worried about your heart, then obviously, if there's fundamental health issues, then yes, absolutely. But I think it's also worth getting a good sports physio or sports therapist on your side as well, who can help you through it.
Yeah. I tend to agree with you on the GP side, because they are jack of all trades, master of none sort of thing. Maybe someone who's more sports specific. You said your first coach, she coached you prior to you doing the first marathon? Or was
that was Tokyo. So it was my second and third, because I did Portsmouth in the run up to Tokyo.
Right.
So she would coach me through those two.
Okay.
Yeah. And then she decided to give up coaching.
Oh, did she?
I'm sure it wasn't connected.
So tell me a little bit more about Tokyo. What was Tokyo Marathon like?
Tokyo was amazing.
I'm totally jealous.
My brother has lived in Tokyo since 1990s. But the reason why I actually did it was that a friend of mine from the club was trying to get all the marathon majors. So she wanted to do Tokyo, and I said, if you go to Tokyo, I'll come with you because I can see my brother. It's one of those easily flippant remarks. That's what transpired. But the course was fun. The support on the course is absolutely amazing. It's crazy. The Japanese people are so lovely, and it was just cheering all the way through. And it was a great experience from start to finish.
And what was it like doing it in a different country? Did you feel there was less pressure?
Pressure's very internal, isn't it? Yeah. I had been a bit injured actually going up to Tokyo, so actually being on the start line for me was that I'd achieved what I wanted to do, because I'd thought a couple of months before I wasn't going to make the start line. So I really, although when I started training, I thought I'm going to smash this. I'm going to go for my Brighton time. But by the time I was on the start line, I was just like, I'm just going to enjoy this. And I just jogged all the way around, and I was just on a high. The last 3 miles are always awful. And they were tough, but up to 22, 23 miles, I just had a ball, and I had a dead even split. And it was just the way to run a marathon, to be honest, to just not have any expectations or pressure.
Yeah.
And I ended up doing it. It's my second fastest. I did it in 4:36. I don't know how that happened, but it was just it was utterly amazing.
Like you said, you obviously really enjoyed it. Yeah. But no, it must have been a wonderful experience. Yeah. What other countries have you run?
Where else have I run? Yeah, I've been to a few. I did the Marrakesh half marathon a few years ago.
Yeah.
I've been to Germany and to France to do park runs.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Just, I think it will probably occur to me again. I think they're the only place I've actually done events in. Yeah.
Okay. And do you think there's something special about running somewhere else which isn't like your back doors?
I think all these things I've done as part of a group of people.
Right. Okay.
And for me, it's always been just spending time with people I enjoy being with, doing things that I enjoy doing. So for me, they are special, but they're special because it's a sociable thing that I enjoy doing. Yeah.
Do you find, just tapping into that, do you find that, let's say, running with other people it's not just more enjoyable, but I just think it's more motivating?
Yeah,
do you think?
I think it is motivating, but for me, it is more enjoyable as well. I think nowadays, I started running, and before I joined the club, it was all about what I could achieve. And since really joining the club, and then maybe talk about it later, with joining Park Run and other communities that I'm a member of, it's actually running is second, and the community that I'm part of is first now, definitely.
So what would you say to someone who is hesitant about joining a community, and what would you say would you say that those are the benefits of being involved in that kind of thing?
Yeah, it worked for me. I wouldn't like to say that there are some people have different goals.
Yeah.
And at one point, I had very strong goals around what I wanted to achieve as a runner. And now I actually, if I could never get a PB again, which I probably won't, to be honest, but if I could never get a PB again, I would still be parts of these communities. If I got injured and I could never run again, I'd still be part of these communities because I'd still turn up and support and that kind of thing. Okay. So running has enabled me to just meet some of the most wonderful people, sportive people and friends that I could ever meet. And so it's given me so much.
At least from a mental health point of view, it's and there's no judgment. No. Exactly.
I think we all have expectations about ourselves.
Yeah.
But actually nobody else cares. If I can't get sub 30 at a park run, I'm the only person who cares about that.
Yeah.
Nobody else in front or behind me care. Yeah. And I think it's important. Everybody's fighting their own battle out there on the course, and nobody's judging other people.
Yeah, I think that's the beauty about it. So you did like I said, we'll talk about the park run later, but so you had that one coach, great. And then I understood then you've had, apart from Andrew, you've had one other.
I had one other, yeah. So that came out of, we went to some friends and I went on a running weekend in Morocco in the Atlas Mountains, which I'm very worried about the people we met there now.
I know. I saw that picture on your...
Yeah, and it was run by husband and wife, although the wife wasn't there. His name is Tom Bon Payne. Yeah. And he's actually a competitive ultra runner in his own right, actually. He's very, very good. And he does remote coaching as well. So we had a lovely long weekend there, and he I spent quite a lot of time talking to him about his coaching. And I'd had this seed in my mind about really wanting to do Comrades.
Tell me more. What's that?
Comrades is an ultra marathon in South Africa. Oh gosh, how far is it? I honestly, sorry, I've blanked. I can't remember how long it is, but it's a very long ultra run that runs from Pietermaritzburg to Durban, I think, and then the year after it runs from Durban to Pietermaritzburg. And there's a 1 year it's net uphill, 1 year it's net downhill. But it's a very grueling marathon ultra marathon with quite a tight cutoff.
Right.
And my grandparents used to live in Pietermaritzburg, and I'd always had this idea in my mind that I would like to do it.
Yeah.
So I was talking to Tom about it, and I decided to take up his remote coaching package when I came back, and we started working together. But that was in 2019, and very soon after COVID hit.
Oh, yes, of course.
And I kept with him for probably about another year. And actually the first year in 2020, when everything started opening up again, I was getting some, and on my own doing my training, I was actually getting some really good times. And it worked really well. But then I started getting injured, and I started thinking, I don't really know if I want this anymore. Suddenly, I think COVID and the lack of travel and just a very different atmosphere, suddenly my idea of wanting to do Comrades just dissipated. And I just suddenly thought, actually, I don't think I want this anymore. And at the same time, I was getting problems with my ankle. And I just thought, I'm just going to stop running for a while. So I just said to Tom that I was going to take a break, and I didn't know what was going to happen. Yeah, so that's how that ended. But I went very amicably. I would really recommend him if somebody's looking for that kind of coach.
Yeah. What did he differ wildly from your first coach?
The difference, I think, is so that the first coach was very much just doing the weekly sessions, strength and conditioning sessions, and then she wrote me a plan, and I spoke to her every week about that. Tom was more, it was actually in some ways it was similar, that he would give you a plan, but it's totally bespoke. I'd speak to him once a fortnight. He would change plans around, he'd change it around depending on what had happened the previous fortnight. Yeah, it was probably a little bit bespoke and a little bit more hands-on than Helen, but probably reasonably similar. Yeah.
So on with Helen, did you get an opportunity to work together?
Yeah, we talked a lot because I saw her once a week. So she would, but she wasn't a coach. She didn't look at my running form or anything like that. Although she did see me on the track because we did a time mile together once. But face to face, it was all about strength and conditioning, and then she would write the plan for me as well.
Okay, and Tom, wasn't it? Yeah. And did you see similar patterns between the two coaches in terms of the program that they run? Obviously, he was prescribing for an ultra.
We were just doing base training really at the time because I felt I needed to get my fitness up. But Tom had quite a large repertoire of different sessions that I'd never seen before.
Okay.
So I would say, he was probably a bit more, I don't want to say imaginative, but he seemed to have a lot in his sort of his repertoire to pull out, and which kept it interesting. And they were all challenging. Obviously, not the easy runs were, but the quality sessions were all pretty challenging. Yeah.
So, what an example?
The float sessions I thought were amazing.
Float.
Yeah. So you basically over the course of, I can't remember now, probably about 15, 20 minutes, you cycle between quite a hard pace and slightly sort of easier pace, but not an easy pace. So you're never actually getting back down to recovery. And I mean, when I saw that session, I thought, how the hell am I going to do that? But actually, it's one of those type 2 fun, isn't it? Once you've finished, you think, oh, that was really good.
Yeah. You do get that a lot with. That's what I like about doing those kind of speed sessions. Is you find with the elevation of your heart rate and kind of that endorphin rush once you finished, you feel, it was all right. But I wasn't looking forward to going out in the first place. Yeah. Oh yeah. So basically, COVID kind of put
the cosh on it.
On that, and then you didn't think so. That's it for another episode, and looking forward to speaking to you next week with some beginner hints and tips about running. I just want to let you know that you can follow me on X, or what was known as Twitter, at Brian's Run Pod. I have just recently set up a Facebook page which is called Brian's Run Pod, and I am on Instagram at Brian's Run Pod. Also, my website is www.briansrunpod.co.uk, where you can get show notes, or on whatever podcasting app you are listening to the show. Plus, all my episodes have chapter markers if you need to get to different segments of the show. Plus, leave a review, as it will help others find this podcast. Music is Happy Day by Stock Audio, not forgetting artwork by Alice Patterson. Till next week, thanks again for listening.